At the end of the day, Syracuse finds a way to win.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, it was ugly. It was not the prettiest of games by any means, but Syracuse basketball finds a way to beat Boston College 95-86 in not one, not two, but three overtimes this evening on February 8th. What a game. My goodness. And here to break it all down is myself, Jackson Holzer, here on Locked On Syracuse. And thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And this is a post-game reaction show. At the end of the podcast, we are going to talk about the news that broke about an hour before tip-off in this game, and that's Donnie Freeman out for the season. We're also going to talk about how this was a huge win for Syracuse basketball in the ACC. But first and foremost, what a gutsy performance by the Orange in this one, taking down Boston College 95-86 in triple overtime. And before we get to everything, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. So I want to start off this podcast on a positive note. This recap. Syracuse battled. They cared. They gave everything they had, and they earned this win. They did. Was it a pretty game? No. Should it have been over in regulation? Absolutely. But this team that, quite frankly, is not very good, what is there to really play for, right? I mean, they're not going to get in at large in the NCAA tournament. I mean, best case is make the ACC tournament, which we'll get to soon. They could have just thrown in the towel multiple times in this game. They did not. They found a way to get a gutsy win. Now let's break down how this game actually unfolded. I think the first half at this point is irrelevant. I mean, Choppa Moore starts off the game really impressive. I mean, he had 8 points in the first 7 minutes, then proceeds to sit for the next 10 minutes. I don't know why. And also, Elijah Choppa Moore did not play in overtime, unless my eyes were deceiving me. But that's neither here nor there. He finished off with a nice day. Choppa Moore had 11 points on 4 of 7 shooting and was 3 of 3 from the three-point line. Then you get to the second half. And it looks like that Syracuse basketball is going to win this game. J.J. Starling is fouled in a one-on-one situation with about 43 seconds left, and Syracuse at this point is up by 5. They're in the driver's seat. It looks like they're going to get a regulation win at home. We're all going to feel at least a little decent about Syracuse basketball for once. But J.J. Starling misses the front end of the 1-and-1. Luckily, Syracuse gets the offensive rebound, and Eddie Lampkin steps up to the line, and he misses a 1-and-1 free throw. Then Boston College, they get a 2-point basket with around 9 seconds left. Should have been basket interference on first look, but whatever at this point. J.J. Starling is fouled once again in a 1-and-1 situation with 9 seconds left. Syracuse is up by 3 points. If J.J. Starling just puts one in, they are up by 2 possessions. And he misses again. Oh, free throws were a problem in this game. Oh, they were a problem for both teams, by the way. It wasn't just Syracuse. Boston College was not good either. But J.J. Starling and Eddie Lampkin had 3 chances at a 1-and-1 in the final 40-ish seconds of the game. Regulation, I should say. And they missed them all. And of course, Boston College, with 4 seconds left, they're down by 3 points. Fred Payne knocks down a game-tying left wing 3. And to J.J. Starling, what was he doing on this final play? If you go back and you watch Boston College, their game-tying shot in regulation, he's going under the screen. Now, fortunately, I started recording this a little bit late, so I saw some of the comments from Adrian Autry in his post-game press conference. His instructions were pretty clear. First of all, they should have fouled, which Adrian Autry said was the instruction. You always foul up 3 late. Shout out John Rothstein. And number 2, you need to defend a 3. So J.J. Starling going underneath the screen, allowing Fred Payne the space to shoot a 3 is unacceptable. And of course, he knocks it down. So Syracuse basketball blew a 5-point lead with 20 seconds left. They blew a 5-point lead with 20 seconds left in regulation. In the first overtime, it was back and forth and tied at 76. We go to a second overtime, and at this point, it looks like that Syracuse basketball really is going to lose to Boston College. I genuinely felt that in the second overtime, the Orange were going to lose. They are down by 7 points with about 2 minutes remaining, and Boston College has the ball. They have the ball. But Syracuse, thanks to Jaquan Carlos and Chris Bell hitting a couple of free throws, very quickly, they get back within 3 points. Jaquan Carlos plays more outstanding defense in the end of that second overtime. And eventually, Syracuse basketball does, in fact, tie the game with J.J. Starling hitting a free throw with 11 seconds left to force a third overtime. And in the third overtime, Syracuse puts the clamps on Boston College. They outscore the Eagles in the final overtime, the third one, 10-1. So Boston College does not make a field goal in the final overtime. This was a game of games. These were two teams that were not very good, going toe-to-toe, trading chance after chance to win the game. Both seemed like they didn't want to win it, but at the end of the day, you can't call it a tie. As much as I wanted to finally call a tie, at some point I wanted this game to end. And Syracuse basketball finds a way to win. That's the game recap for you all. I did it in about 7 minutes. That's not bad. A triple overtime game I summed up in about 7 minutes. How about that? Not bad, right? So as ugly as this game was, and it was, I mean, the free throw shooting was pathetic on both sides. I'll give you the numbers real quick on that. Syracuse was 18 of 32, which is 56%. Boston College, 9 of 18, 50%. This was a really important win for Syracuse basketball. So we're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Syracuse. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, PrizePicks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. PrizePicks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw for 1 yard to win. You pair that with one more correct pick, and guess what? You're cashing out. And this week, I'm looking at the board and selecting more for Travis Kelce on receiving yards. He always seems to show up in the big game. And what I love most, fast, safe withdrawals. And when I win, my cash is in my account in as little as 15 minutes. Check out the promos tab to tail any of the super sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. I'm Jackson Holzer, and this is Locked On Syracuse, and the Orange just beat Boston College in triple overtime, 95-86. I did a quick recap for you all in the first segment. Basically, Syracuse basketball in regulation, they blew a 5-point lead with 20 seconds to go. In the second overtime, Boston College had a 7-point lead with 2 minutes to go. Both teams tried to lose this game, but at the end of the day, the Orange are the ones standing on top with the 95-86 win. And as ugly as it was, as much, at some point I tweeted out at LO_Syracuse, could both teams just be relegated? You know the Premier League, right? If you finish at a certain level, you finish too low in the league, you get relegated to whatever the second league is in England. I don't know what it is. I'm not a huge soccer nut. I just know that relegation exists in European soccer. That's what I was honestly thinking about. I mean, can they put Syracuse and Boston College in the Horizon League now? That's neither here nor there. So I'm sorry that the Horizon League of all leagues is catching strays here on Locked On Syracuse. Regardless, neither team is leaving the ACC, despite how bad that game was in terms of quality of play. So, with that being said, this was a really important win for Syracuse basketball. Super duper important. I don't want to say that this puts the Orange into the ACC tournament because you never know. You never know, right? There's still plenty of games to go. But this was really important. Now Syracuse basketball is 2-0 against Boston College this season. They have the tiebreaker over Boston College in the event that those two end up tying, which I don't know if they will. So looking at the ACC standings, the Orange are now 5-8 in the conference, and they are no longer the last team in. That's right. They moved up a couple of spots. Virginia's at 4-8 at the time of this recording. Notre Dame is at 4-8 at the time of this recording. Boston College is now 2-10 in the ACC, and Syracuse is 5-8. So they are 2.5 games ahead of Boston College. They are also 2.5 games up, or maybe 3 games up on NC State as the last team out, or first team out, I should say. Right. That's huge. That is massive. I talked about how, look, they were not going to beat Duke. They were not going to beat Duke, no matter what. But getting that Cal win was super important because they needed a little bit more margin for error for these next couple of games, which we just completed the first of the two, which is Syracuse beating Boston College, one of the bottom feeders in the ACC. And next up on Tuesday in Miami to take on the Miami Hurricanes. I don't know if you've caught wind of Miami this season. They are not a very good basketball team. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Syracuse basketball is a lock to win the game because they are certainly not. But getting this win, combined with the Cal win last week, gives the Orange a lot more margin for error. They have 5 conference wins. How many more do they actually need to put themselves in the ACC tournament? Not many. And by the way, some of the other bottom feeders in the ACC, the Orange, will still have the opportunity to play them in the event something goes really wrong, right? They're going to play Miami on Tuesday. Hopefully they win that game. You get to 6 conference games. But they will play NC State at home on February 26th. And then if they can't beat NC State or Miami, and for some reason Syracuse basketball might not make the conference tournament, well, they could have one more final chance in the final game of the regular season at home against Virginia. That's on March 8th. This was a huge win. They absolutely had to have this game. It was not must win, but if they had lost to Boston College, I would have said that at Miami is a must-win game, because when I look at the schedule for Syracuse, I don't think they're going to beat Carolina at home on February 15th. I do not think they're going to go to Pittsburgh and win on February 18th. At Virginia Tech, Virginia Tech's not a great team, but that's a road game. You can't say that Syracuse is going to win that one. They could win it, but probably not. At SMU is probably a loss as well. So this was really important. You got to beat the bottom feeders in the conference to make the ACC tournament. And that leads us all back to what the goal was for this season once we got to like December, because we knew that this team wasn't very good. And that is make the ACC tournament, be as high of a seed as possible, preferably be top 9, but just get in the conference tournament. Avoid that embarrassment. Avoid it. And it was big. They got this win. We can all breathe a little sigh of relief. My goodness, I'm still recovering from it. By the way, I actually went to the game, so I witnessed this game in person. Oh boy. I picked a good one to go to. This is my first basketball game of the season. If you were also at the game, leave a comment in the comments section below. If you have any thoughts on this game as well, leave a comment in the comment section below here. I'd be happy to respond to you all after this. But it was important, as ugly as the game was. And it's important that we don't lose sight of that they get their 5th conference win and you beat Miami and get to 6. It's going to be hard to actually miss the conference tournament. I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse. We are talking about the Orange's 95-86 triple overtime victory over Boston College inside the Dome this evening. Talked a lot about the game, gave you guys a recap, how important the win was for the Orange. Now coming up, unfortunately, before tip-off, we learned the fate of Donnie Freeman. The 5-star freshman will miss the remainder of the season. So we're going to talk about that and also his future with Syracuse basketball. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. It's probably going to be the Chiefs ending up winning, right? And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook, whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, probably Patrick Mahomes, or even betting on the coin toss. Who the heck knows who's going to win a coin toss? FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate, plus knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl. That's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. About an hour before this marathon started between Syracuse and Boston College, in case you missed it, Syracuse basketball beat Boston College in triple overtime 95-86. The Orange announced an hour before tip-off that Donnie Freeman will miss the remainder of the season. He is scheduled to, quote, have a procedure next week. Donnie Freeman, a 5-star freshman, the highest-ranked Syracuse basketball recruit since Carmelo Anthony, has not played since January 4th. And that's that for Donnie Freeman as a freshman with Syracuse basketball. Now, I do want to say this. The report from Syracuse does clarify that Donnie Freeman is actually injured. He is legitimately hurt. He did not quit on the team by any means. This is not an NIL dispute. He is going through a procedure. That means he is actually injured. And the good news with that is he's expected to make a full recovery and return to basketball according to the school. Now, for some context, some background behind this, in case you have not been following this situation, as I told you earlier, Donnie Freeman is the highest ranked Syracuse basketball recruit since Carmelo Anthony in 2002, and he was playing well in the first 14 games of the season, which ends up being the final 14 games of the season that he will play, hopefully not for his career. He averaged 13 points, 8 rebounds, 50% from the field, and 33% from the three-point line. Overall, he was a net positive on the court, despite him not really being the greatest defender in the world. He's probably Syracuse basketball's second best player when healthy. Right before the Georgia Tech game, which was on January 7th, Donnie Freeman was ruled out with a lower right leg injury, and the school said that his status was day-to-day. Obviously, he's not day-to-day. Am I upset that that was the initial diagnosis and he ends up missing the entire year? Absolutely, but something went wrong. Either Donnie Freeman couldn't recover from the injury as fast as they hoped, or it was simply a misdiagnosis. I mean, a few weeks ago, Adrian Autry was saying that Donnie Freeman wasn't doing any weight-bearing activities. That signaled to me that he's not close to returning to the court. We know the answer now. At least we have clarity. Donnie Freeman will not play for the rest of the season for Syracuse basketball, which now leaves the million-dollar question. This is the question that was not answered from the Orange. It has not been answered from anyone, really. What is the future of Donnie Freeman? Donnie Freeman has 3 choices. He can return to Syracuse basketball next season. He's got plenty of eligibility. He was only a freshman this year. Donnie Freeman could also decide to go pro. He can go to the NBA or the G League. I know that there will be some of you who comment based on the last podcast I did about Donnie Freeman saying that he's nowhere near pro. I promise you, if Donnie Freeman wanted to go pro next year and play in the G League, he absolutely can. Teams will draft on traits, not necessarily on ability, and I do think that Donnie Freeman has the ability to at least be a G Leaguer next season, at the very least. Or there's option number 3. Donnie Freeman could transfer. That is on the table. I don't know if he will, but it's on the table. You have to consider that an option. You never know. We did the same thing with LaQuint Allen in December when talking about, is he going to go to the NFL? Is he going to return to Syracuse? Could he possibly transfer? That was really unlikely that he would ever transfer, but their choice became pro or stay in Syracuse. He ultimately went pro. But Donnie Freeman, you have to put it out there that he could transfer. Of course he can. It's in his right. It's well within his right to enter the portal. My guess is this. I think Donnie Freeman will test the NBA draft waters. See, the good part about basketball is it's a little less strict than football in terms of declaring for the draft. You are allowed to declare for the draft, go through a combine, talk to teams, and then make a decision as to whether or not you want to stay in the draft. In other words, you can declare for the NBA draft while maintaining your college eligibility. An example is Judah Mintz in 2023. He did exactly that with Syracuse basketball. He announced he was going to go to the NBA draft, but keep the door open of potentially returning to Syracuse, which ultimately he decided to do in 2023. Now, last offseason, Judah Mintz did not leave that door open. He decided he's going to the pros. He's going to gamble on whether or not he's drafted, but regardless, he's in the G League now. He's going to play professional basketball in 2024, 2025, rather than return to school. Sometimes you will see players declare for the draft and enter the transfer portal at the same time. All that is to say, I would find it pretty hard to believe that Donnie Freeman, who came in as a top 5, 10 player in the country, I don't think he was ever top 5, but he was number 6. As the number 6 overall player in the country who was playing decent for Syracuse basketball, all things considered. I don't think he underachieved. I don't think he overachieved. I think he met his expectation level in terms of when he was actually on the court. I find it hard to believe that he won't at least test the NBA draft waters. Now, whether or not he decides to keep the door open and return to Syracuse or decide to enter the portal, I don't know. What I do know is that Syracuse basketball in their upcoming high school recruiting class, they did recruit a power forward. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? They got Sadiq White, a 4 or 5-star player. He's kind of a quasi 4 or 5-star, 6'8" power forward, elite defender in high school. I think he's going to be really good for the Orange next season. Who knows? Who knows if that helps or hurts the Orange in regards to Donnie Freeman. I hope that game, I believe it was Florida State, his last game. I really hope that wasn't the final game for Donnie Freeman in a Syracuse uniform, because I would love to see what he looks like on a team that actually is successful, a team that actually wins. I think he could be really good. I genuinely do. But we don't know. That's the $1 million question. What is the future of Donnie Freeman? And that's something that we will find out in probably the next month or so when the season eventually ends for the Orange. And that's when the portal madness really starts to begin. We'll find out. So that about does it. Talked about Syracuse and Boston College, a triple overtime thriller, 95-86, a gutsy win despite it being an incredibly ugly win. It was an important win for the Orange in the ACC race. Donnie Freeman ruled out for the season about an hour before everything even started, which was quite unfortunate. I wish Donnie nothing but the best, and I hope he does return to Syracuse basketball next season. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. And for your second listen, you can check out the Locked On ACC podcast. Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs, they keep it real and bringing the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. And if you really enjoy the podcast, hit that subscribe button for me. And if you can also do me a favor, just tell one or two of your closest Syracuse friends about Locked On Syracuse so this channel can grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And I will see you all again soon. And oh, by the way, good luck to the Chiefs and Eagles fans in the Super Bowl tomorrow. Take care, everyone.